The Health Fix Podcast teaches you how to take charge of your health naturally by giving you the information you need to elevate your health.
Hello there, health junkies. Welcome to another episode of The Health Fix. I'm your host, Dr. Janine Krause. Today's episode, we are talking about pelvic floor dysfunction and pain in men. But ladies, it also applies to you because this pelvic floor pain business is a big deal and it's happening to ladies and men alike. And it's one of these things that gets overlooked by doctors and common practitioners of pain as not being the issue. Maybe it's our training that's failed us. I don't know. Whatever it may be, pelvic floor pain should be addressed. I love working on it in my office and I love helping folks out with this because it can be a game changer and a life saver. So I have Michael Hodge on today. He is an overcomer of pelvic floor dysfunction. He was suffering for 5 years, searching for answers to his pelvic floor pain until he found Dr. Brianne Grogan. And she is from Femme Fusion Fitness. She had YouTube videos and he started doing some of the pelvic floor stretching videos on a daily basis and he started doing better. That in conjunction with doing some work with a chiropractor who was specialized in Chinese medicine and applied kinesiology. And then of course he was working on his own, a lot of self-dedication to working on relieving his own pain. Now, Michael has partnered with Dr. Brianne Grogan to offer a program called Overcome. And it is specifically for men just like him who overcame or who are going to overcome their pelvic floor dysfunction or want to overcome their pelvic floor dysfunction. And today, Michael and I are going to talk all about pelvic floor dysfunction symptoms in men, what it looks like. And ladies, this is important for you to listen to too, because if you got a guy in your life that's struggling with pain and no one has figured it out yet, listen into this podcast and let's see if we can give you some answers. All right, I've been talking way too much. Let's get on with the podcast. Hello there, health junkies. Welcome to another episode of The Health Fix. I'm your host, Dr. Janine Krause, and I have Michael Hodge on the line today. We're going to be talking about overcoming pelvic floor dysfunction in men and talking about pelvic pain and how Michael overcame this and how he is going to help you as well. So, Michael, welcome to The Health Fix.
Yeah, thanks for having me on the show, Janine. And there's nothing like having a nice fireside chat talking about pelvic floor dysfunction.
Absolutely. And with the cold weather here in Washington, it does feel like a fireside with my warm tea that I'm having to basically huddle since it's freezing here. And you're down in Texas now is what I understand.
Yeah, I'll try to send you some of our heat so that it can get cooler for us around here. So we got our AC blasting pretty hard.
Oh man. Yeah, we need to trade some weather temperature stuff going on here. Now, before we get too far deep in, I do want to talk a little bit about just the basis of pelvic pain, because this is a topic that I have happening a lot in my office. I see a lot of firefighters. I see a lot of tough guys, first responders, and they're like, yeah, I have pain, but it's in my back. It can't be my pelvis. It's my back. And then they go down all these rabbit holes of trying to fix their back pain, but it really is the pelvis. So tell us a little bit about your story, because I saw a video, 5 years of dealing with pelvic floor dysfunction and really struggling. Tell us about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I definitely, not the funnest thing to recount the story, but then again, it benefits people. So it all started really when I was about 22 years old, and there wasn't a specific incident where it's like, oh, that's why it all happened. It wasn't some sort of traumatic injury. But, the thing that immediately came to my attention was actually after having sex, my testicle, I felt like it flipped in my scrotum, which was really, really weird. It was really scary. Anytime anything happens below the belt as a guy, you get really really out. What's going on? Am I ever going to be able to do anything again or have kids or whatever? But yeah, I went to my primary doctor, and then I got sent to a urologist and this and that. And basically it was all fine. It's supposedly nothing happened. But not too long after, I started to have tightness in my perineum and perineal pain right there in between the anus and the scrotum, for anyone who doesn't exactly know where that is, the very base of your body. So that tightness was there. And I also had a varicocele that was growing, which is like varicose veins, almost the veins around your testicle that get enlarged and engorged due to blood flow issues. So that also started to happen and started to get worse. But over time, it seemed to continue to exacerbate and get worse and worse and worse. And it got to the point where I couldn't exercise anymore. I was a martial arts instructor at the time, by the way. So it was really hard because I couldn't really teach class. It was super painful. I would just have to do small movements. The only thing that would really feel good was lying down completely or going to sleep. And, of course, things like urinating, you urinate a lot more times throughout the day. You'll hover over the toilet for like several minutes, just trying to get a flow started. After having a bowel movement, I would have spasms as well. It would just like the muscles they're so dysfunctional that, when you ejaculate, urinate, or defecate, you're having all these muscles that are working involuntarily, usually through your autonomic nervous system. So you're not able to forcefully control them, especially if there's dysfunction that was being harbored in some way. So that was happening. And yeah, and so I started, of course, I went the normal route of like, urologist, and let's do, ultrasound and MRI and blood work and blah, 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 and did all that stuff. And the whole thing's a long story. It's on our website as well. You guys can listen to a video and everything, but that went on. And that's kind of regarding the symptoms, if that answers your question. And I can go into deeper as to what I did to heal and everything later.
Yes, let's get into what you did a little bit later, because I think symptoms are important, because I think a lot of guys instantly think there's something wrong with my prostate, there's something wrong, I have testicular cancer, those kind of thoughts. And then when those get ruled out, they're like, okay, am I crazy? Like, what is going on? And I have it's probably going to sound kind of strange, but I have a lot of experience with folks with pain in the perineal area, because my husband used to professionally race mountain bikes. And that's an area where there's a lot of pressure. If you've been on a long ride, oftentimes that would hurt. But I'm imagining that some of these guys who would also talk about spasms and difficult urination, that back in the day, I'm listening to this as being kind of the pseudo doctor for the team, just by association with my husband, that some of these guys might have been experiencing the similar things to what you were experiencing.
Yeah, it's possible that they had just like milder forms of it. And in my case, it got chronic and, really, really bad. But I think that it's something that's misdiagnosed and misunderstood dramatically in Western medicine. That's what I found out. I mean, literally, I went to 3 different urologists and no one ever said pelvic floor dysfunction or CPPS. Like I had to find out on the internet myself. I mean, they were all just saying prostatitis, take this, these antibiotics, of course. And some of them gave me like Flomax or something to help with flow of your urine, this and that. But no one really in the Western medicine side understood what was happening. And that's super frustrating and really scary, because, that whenever, like you said, everyone's like, you don't have anything going on with you. Like there's no problem. You're just making all this up in your head or something.
Right. And that's so darn frustrating to hear that, oh, it's all in my head. No, it can't be all in my head. And now when you're looking at being young and at any age really, but being in, let's call it, when you're 20s, this is like your prime time for sex and whatnot. And if that is causing pain, oh my goodness, I mean, this is a big deal.
Oh, it really messes you up. And it's interesting. A lot of the guys that have started Overcome Pelvic Pain, which is a program, we'll talk about later on, but a lot of these guys are in their 20s, I'm noticing. And I'm also seeing that many of them are high performers. Like they're quite successful for their age. They do well professionally. They make good money and this and that. But the thing is, all of this begins energetically before it manifests, like at the physical level in your body. And there are a lot of things that lead up to this. But like I say, this isn't an acute situation where like you fall off of a ladder and that's why I broke my shoulder or something. Like this is clearly how it happened. In this case, I see a combination of high stress. You also can see bad posture regarding sitting at a desk a lot, because you can get a pelvic tilt, which will exacerbate the issues as well. And there could be a variety of other things. Nutrition can also be heavily involved and can play into it. But these things kind of can all come together to create a perfect storm. And energetically, of course, all of that's already happening before it manifests at the physical body level. So, preventative maintenance for things like this isn't just trying to eat the right foods or something for your prostate or whatever, or moving your body. It's also making sure you're not overly fearful or depending on how esoteric or, things you want to talk about. But there's a lot more to it that people don't understand. And a lot of men especially are like, I just want a plan. Tell me what to do. Like, I'll take the pills. I'll do this every day, whatever I got to do. Especially these guys. These guys are very type A, the guys who get pelvic floor dysfunction. They're like, I can do anything. Like, they're successful in school. They know how to work. So they think they can apply that same approach to overcoming something health-wise, which is paradoxically the exact opposite of what they have to do to heal.
Isn't that funny how those things work?
Not whenever you're in the middle of it, but afterwards it is funny.
Yes, definitely not in the middle of it. I would agree with you on that, but it just seems so interesting how that goes that way. Now, in terms of nutrition, let's talk about that for a second. Then I do want to kind of dive into a couple more things before we start talking about the Overcome program. A lot of people, you were talking about nutrition for your prostate, but what kind of things could some folks be doing right now that could be irritating their pelvic floor?
So it is quite possible that they are consuming way too much sugar, that they're consuming dramatically too much dairy, that there are just a lot of other toxins that they're being fed from eating processed packaged junk foods. They could be consuming a lot of caffeine or alcohol. All these things could potentially be issues, but there's not one specific thing. It's like, oh, you eat that one food, it's going to jack up your pelvic floor. Not really. But I mean, for a lot of people that go through this situation, it can be a useful wake-up call for them to go towards a more healthy whole foods diet. It's not that you have to be like paleo or keto or vegan or something to overcome this. But I see a lot of mindless eating, you could say, even just not being mindful about taking more time to prepare real foods, actually honoring what you're eating and making sure that you're consuming something as close to the source as possible rather than, multiple iterations that have been sitting on shelves for a long time.
That makes perfect sense. Plus, some of the body's breakdown products of these overprocessed foods like oxalates and salicylates. So now we have chemicals that can sit in the muscles and aggravate muscle tension further. So it makes sense that diet would have a factor here. Now, let's kind of curve a little into the Chinese medicine side of things here, because of course I'm an acupuncturist, and I know that you had worked with a doc who was kind of a kinesiologist, had some acupuncture background, things of that nature, and that you also have a history in knowing a little bit about martial arts. Actually, probably a lot, not a little. That was an error on my part saying that. But what I'm looking at here is the perineum and the pelvic floor muscles are all part of the kidney channel, and this is our batteries. And you were speaking a little bit about how type A folks tend to be more affected with pelvic floor dysfunction, and depletion of energy is what I start to think about in terms of someone who is a go-getter, a pusher, doer, things of that nature. Do you tend to, in the Overcoming Pelvic Floor Dysfunction program, in the Overcome program, do you tend to work on looking at maybe gaining some energy, repleting some energy, things of that nature?
Absolutely. I mean, the way the Overcome program is designed is over the 12 weeks, every day, there's actually 12 different routines, by the way. So every week you have a different routine that you do, but you start off your day with that stretching and healing routine before you do anything else. It's like beforehand, they might have woken up, checked their phone, started doing emails, had some coffee, blah, blah, blah. Now, no matter what, you've got to do your healing routine first, and then by all means, do a meditation afterwards as well. This really is really game changing because it changes, you create more space, you do replete your energy, you activate the parasympathetic nervous system, and it's extremely beneficial. And you're, mechanically stretching out muscles and creating a more suppleness that's going to be required so that you don't have so much tightness throughout the day. But also, even beyond just your daily routine that you do, we provide some supplemental materials such as like trigger point release. And we also have a deep relaxation pose. These are things you can add in throughout the week whenever you need them. They're really kind of nice to do like in the afternoon or evening if you have some pain that's coming up. We call it a deep relaxation pose, but honestly, it's a guided meditation, but in a very specific pose that takes a huge amount of pressure off of your pelvic floor and creates an opening. And it's very it very much repletes energy and allows you to, step away from the daily stream of consciousness and all of that, because you just have to get out of your body's own way. Your body is trying to heal itself all the time, and your mind is the one that's blocking it constantly.
So true. So true. It's amazing what our mind can do, and how, it can have such an impact on our body. And I think for a lot of people hearing us say, oh, the mind, we got to get out of the mind. No, we're not saying that it's all in your head. We're actually saying that what processes in your mind happens in terms of an effect, like a ripple effect or a butterfly effect, down to every single one of your cells, including your muscle cells. And I like to always, repeat that, because I think so many guys and gals too, but in terms of the guys that I see in my office, they're like, Doc, it's got to be all in my head. My pelvic floor stuff is got to be in my head. I don't know why I can't seem to get over this. And so I think it's important to keep reiterating that whole concept. And I love that you guys have the mind and body aspect within the Overcome program.
Absolutely. And I'll also point out the fact that your mind can be really useful in helping you to heal. I really like the area of psychoneuroimmunology, especially the way that Dr. JoeDispenza teaches it in his research, because you can choose a more promising or a better future for your body. I mean, you can epigenetically upregulate genes for health. You can choose, this is my body now in the future. Your future vision for your body is to be strong again, be healthy, be able to have sex again, be able to do whatever you want adventurously outside, whatever it is, like your ideal body, you could say. And you see that, and it's not just some sort of fantasy. You're like, oh, positive thinking, hopefully this will happen someday. You actually are thinking about it, and you're actually feeling the emotions in advance before it even happens. Therefore, if you want to talk about quantum physics, you're actually signaling to the quantum field the fact that you know that this is already true. So that then materially speaking, matter will then form and follow that. Just like in quantum physics, the observer effect. You can't see the molecules of matter, the particles actually, until an observer decides to pay attention to them. It's the exact same thing. So you can choose a more promising future for your body. And, that is important, because you know that you're going to heal, this is happening, but then you also let go. It's not like you fixate on that all the time, but you could definitely do that. And it's something that you can do in meditations, or just choosing to overcome, like the emotion and the decision, the willpower to be this new healthy version of yourself has to overcome the subconscious recurring emotions that are no longer loving to you, but they constantly happen, because it's like picking at a scab. And it's so easy to be like, oh yeah, like I'm still in pain. It's been going on for 2 years, blah, blah, blah. It's so easy to get caught up in that and making it actually as part of your identity. So it's very, very hard work, honestly. It's way easier just to get an injection or to take a pill. But once you understand how to do this for healing pelvic floor dysfunction, of course, you could heal anything else as well yourself.
I think this is important to talk about in terms of spending the time to work on healing yourself, and how important that truly is. I'm a huge fan of Dr. JoeDispenza's work. I do think that the quantum field is impressive in terms of what we can do with those sort of things. And some listeners right now might be thinking, okay, I don't know about that, but I'd love to hear, in terms of the Overcome program, how do you guys approach this aspect of things? How are you interjecting it into the program?
Absolutely. So that's a good point. We don't want to scare anyone away that isn't ready to understand like the energetic or the quantum field side of things. And that's fine. Like, you don't have to understand or totally believe in that stuff for all of this to work still. But yeah, in Overcome, we do the manual therapy side by having the daily routine. We have each month there's a nutrition lesson and challenge that you actually do. Each month there's also a mindset lesson. And we are not going into great detail about like quantum physics or something like that, but we are teaching the importance of a shift in mindset.
And I think that, more than anything, like, yeah, quantum stuff's really cool if you want to dive into that. But I think mindset is one of the big things that, overlooked over and over again. And it's starting to gain more traction in terms of the folks I've been talking to. But I think it's still something that we have to understand that it's not something that you're going to change your mindset overnight. It truly takes time and it takes some effort. And you were mentioning how the 12-week program is a little bit of effort, but we don't want to scare folks away. But let's talk a little bit about what folks can expect within the program in terms of what structure. Like, I know you kind of gave me a synopsis of a week by week program and things like that. Tell us a little more about what do you guys start off with? What's the most, like, the primary thing that we gotta get out of the way in the program?
Absolutely. Yeah. So you purchase the program you're in, you actually get full access to like an online course essentially that you can, access whenever you need to, but it's broken up into 3 phases: month 1, 2, and 3. And in month 1, of course, we have 4 weeks. Each of them have 4 weeks. In week 1, we are going to, welcome you and give you some information on how the whole thing will work for you. And we're also going to teach you some basics about possibly why this is happening and how it's going to be when you're healing. And we also talk a little bit about the importance of mindset, because we want people to realize that the neural networks that are constantly wiring and firing together, that's actually creating this as a chronic issue rather than just like a shorter term one. So we do talk about that a little bit. And we also teach the pelvic drop, which helps you to understand the importance and actually how to relax your pelvic floor muscles, because a lot of people haven't even tried to do that yet. Or maybe they were taught how to do a Kegel, which is a really bad idea for most people in this situation. They don't need to be doing that right now. We teach them that. So there are a couple of different lessons. And then we go ahead and jump straight into week 1, healing routine. And you do that healing routine. We recommend doing it 5 to 7 days each week, or for week 1, actually, ideally every day, but especially in the morning would be good. And then in your month 1 unit, you also have the trigger point release, you have the deep relaxation pose, you have the nutrition lesson, and you have the mindset lesson. Month 2 and 3 look very similar. Each of the weeks have their own healing routine, and they have their own nutrition, mindset, and the other components. They're actually all in there. And the way the program works in general is in month 1, what we're trying to do is help you get to a 0 point, a baseline of relaxation, to where if you're waking up in the morning, you're already tight, you already have pain, dysfunction issues. And by the way, it usually gets a lot worse throughout the day, but especially if you're already waking up that way. We want to get to the point to where we're getting to a more baseline, and that's getting better. Month 2, we're going to continue to stretch out and make sure you're starting off your day fresh, with as little as pain as possible. We're also going to start re-strengthening the surrounding muscle groups that really help hold up your pelvic floor, because it's very possible that, let's say if you have hypertonic pelvic floor muscles, they were taking on way too much pain, way too much of the workload, you could say. And so we need to kind of re-strengthen the glutes and the lower back and the core and the obliques and some of the muscles that surround it, so that they get a little bit of a relief, you could say. And then in month 3, what we do is we actually start to work on re-strengthening the pelvic floor muscles directly. And by the way, at the end of each, I forgot to mention, one thing you do right whenever you join is you do a symptom questionnaire. And it's a 25-question questionnaire asking you, rate your pain about all these different things. And you get a score. At the end of month 1, if you have a certain percentage improvement on that score, you're ready to go to month 2. If not, you just repeat month 1, weeks 3 and 4. We do the same thing for months 2 and 3. So ideally, we'd love for someone to complete this in 12 weeks and overcome this once and for all, right? But if not, it's okay. You got to be, loving to yourself. And we actually have like a quantitative way for you to be checking on yourself, even though it's a subjective scoring system, but it works quite well. And that's how the whole program is really designed.
That's cool. I like the check-ins. I think that's sometimes with a lot of online courses, we don't have those checkpoints to be like, you should, where are you at? And I was going to say you should be here by now, but that does not even sound correct at all. It's more like a, where are you at? And should we have you progress, or should we have you repeat a couple of different things? Now, you created the course with Dr. Brianne Grogan of Femme Fusion Fitness, and you two must have done a lot of work together to figure out these checkpoints.
Oh yeah, definitely. We had conversations, and I had the original idea and I presented it to her regarding the 12 weeks and the phases, and we talked about it, and it seemed to follow suit with also what she sees as being a beneficial way to heal this. And she had the questionnaire idea, and yeah, we went back and forth a lot on these things, and definitely it was a good merging of my, actual experience with this, since I went through it and overcame it myself. And I've also created other programs as a teacher before, and online courses and things. So I have a pretty good understanding in that area. And from her clinical understanding of the actual scientific backing, as well as she has a lot of holistic health understandings as well. So it was a really good team effort, you could say.
Yeah. No, for those of you who are not familiar with Dr. Brian Grogan, she has a very popular YouTube channel known as Fem Fusion Fitness, and she has a bunch of videos on pelvic floor health. She was specific towards females at first, and then she threw out some male stuff, and that's where, as I understand, and Michael, correct me if I'm wrong, Michael found Dr. Bree.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Actually, her channel is now called Fem Fusion Fitness and Pelvic Health, because she has such a authoritative understanding, I guess you could say, on YouTube in this area, and she's helping so many people in the pelvic health area. But yeah, I was using one of her pelvic floor stretching videos, and it was really, really helping me in like one of the darkest moments. I found it, and I did it every single morning for like 3 months straight. I'm serious, and it's very helpful. And I left a comment, and she really liked the comment and basically asked, hey, I'd love to interview you so that other people can hear your story. And she interviewed me on her YouTube channel. It's still on there. It has like 20,000 plus views. A lot of men have seen it. And actually, I put my email address on there, and I had guys reach out to me every month for a couple of years via that. And I already followed back up to a lot of those guys, and a lot of them have already been healed from some of my guidance. So I was just doing it to help. But in the back of my head and my heart, I always wanted to make some stretching videos or put some blog posts or do something, because it's crazy that there's still such a lack of understanding in this area. And I'm like, if I can help some guy heal in like 6 months or a year instead of 5 years, that's going to be a pretty amazing life purpose. So yeah, I was meditating back in like September or October, and just had this idea come to me for some reason that I should create this program, but specifically with Dr. Bree and not just on my own. And since then we've been working together on it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So you mentioned briefly that helping folks, heal from pelvic floor dysfunction and pain in 6 to 12 months. Is that an average somewhere in between there? Or what have you typically seen, or what have folks told you? And in your own story, how long did it take before pain was gone or manageable, in terms of your case?
Yeah. I mean, in my case, like after, like I said, I went through it for 5 years. So like in the last 6 months, I was definitely getting quite a bit better, but it's like a long story. I actually got like 85% better when I went to physical therapy for a year. And then I became a vegetarian, and, I was a vegetarian for like 3 years, but long story short, I actually got mold that was growing in my body, and it made the whole thing way worse. It actually all came back way stronger. So it was like two different bouts of it for me, to be honest with you. It wasn't just like one long 5-year thing all related to the same thing. The first part was more of like stress, pelvic tilt. I had a pretty bad pelvic tilt, and that was being corrected, hypertonic muscles. And then the next pass through, you could say, was very related to the health thing, but all of it was still kind of similar. But yeah, I think that with the right information and really choosing to do this, I'm seeing people heal in 6 months, a year, 2 years. It could be sooner though. I mean, that's a very hard question to answer, and I don't have enough data yet, honestly.
That's okay. I think just folks would like to hear what you've seen.
It's not like 9 years though. So.
And that's, because sometimes in some of the cases, like I'm talking about mold, you said you had mold, and I'm like, oh man, sometimes some of my cases that I see with mold can be a very long time to get the mold out of the system, especially when someone's been dealing with it for a long time.
Yeah, no, I'm actually working on fully extinguishing it right now. I don't have pelvic floor issues from that, but I'm still on a very strict diet, and I have been for the last 3 years, which was very helpful in helping me to heal. But I chose that I want to be able to eat other things again, and to, epigenetically change my body and also extinguish all of this. So I'm on like a mild GAPS diet right now because I'm building up my microbiome. And so that's a whole nother podcast episode there.
That's a whole nother program you need to create. That's step 2.
If you have this is a really specific case, but yeah, the Overcome program, because people have this for nutritional reasons, for, body alignment issues, a lot of different things that can cause it. We really tried to create something fairly general that will work. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if someone's dealing with other issues in addition to the pelvic floor stuff, they probably want to get a little bit more advanced guidance. But at this point, I love that the basic nutrition, because I think a lot of people still might be on, the fence in terms of, really, can diet really affect me that much? So it's something to always have, I think, in any program where we're trying to work with pain, because I do find that the more inflammation that we get from the inflammatory foods we eat, the more it's going to affect our muscles and our tissues.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they have no idea. Like it's what I say, there's no reason not to do a 21-day elimination diet. I did the standard process 21-day cleanse, and I have a blog post that talks about my recommended steps to healing this. It literally is good for any human being to do this anyway, because you're detoxifying your body. It's very, very good for you. But what happens is you get to slowly add back things to your body from more of a baseline. And if you add back cheese one day, and that was whenever you start having a lot of tightness again, you're like, oh, wow, maybe I should not be eating cheese. That doesn't mean they can never eat cheese again. It means that you should definitely be removing it while your body is in such a weakened state. It's very imbalanced right now due to the fact that you clearly are having these, issues. So by all means, I would recommend making these adjustments in order to allow your body to heal, remove all the roadblocks. But they have no idea. So there's no reason not to do a cleanse diet like that, is what I would say, actually.
Perfect. No, I love it. Now, in terms of post overcome, what can folks do? Do you have a continuum program or a way that folks can keep in touch with you and still gain some advice, or what are you doing for the continuing education post 12 weeks?
Yeah, that's a good question. So regarding the actual program, after you finish, we have a lesson that does give you some general advice, but it's not a very long connected thing. They're still going to be interacting with us after the 12 weeks, or after how long ever it took for them to heal, you could say. Of course, Dr. Bree and FemFusion Fitness and Pelvic Health, we have content that's related to being healthy in general, having a healthy pelvis for the rest of your life. So there's going to be things there. But one thing that we even say on our website and everything is that we don't want you to have to come back and look at this program ever again. We don't want you to have to. I'm serious, because I had people ask me this question, and we were thinking about it too, with the way it was worded and everything on the website. But we want you to do this program for the 12 weeks, or maybe it might take you 4 months or whatever, and finish it and not deal with it anymore. That doesn't mean you're going to go back to life as it was before you started. Obviously, no one's going to do that. I mean, they're going to have so much gratitude for the fact that they even had pelvic floor dysfunction. As crazy as it is for you to hear that, whenever you're going through it, you do. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure they're going to continue on with healthy habits. They're going to continue exercising in a way and kind of add back. And we do talk about this towards the end as well, by the way. Add back in exercise and movement in a graded way where it's not all at once. So it is important that we point that out. But otherwise, eating a healthy, balanced diet, living a more stress-free life, you could say, and not holding on to outcomes and forcing things as much. All of those things that you probably learned through going through this, hopefully you continue on, right?
Right. All of the mental, emotional, but also the routine to help with stretching and kind of release of the pelvic floor. Because I think for so many people, this is an area that maybe you don't have it to the point where the pain is talking to you all the time. But if it's a low level, or you do something say you go on a really long road trip, or you're on an overnight plane flight, a long flight, these are things that you would want to have some maintenance.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I went on a 14-hour flight to Japan last year, and I was totally fine. No problem whatsoever. But I will point out that I know that after completing this, one thing even for myself as well has been re-strengthening the pelvic floor muscles even more, because just knocking down the pain and removing the dysfunction doesn't always mean the muscles are as strong as they used to be. So I did Dr. Bree's Kegel camp, which was really good. It was a 30-day program to help strengthen the muscles, which again, you should not be doing until you actually overcome the dysfunction. But there's that. And we might very well have another program similar to that, where like you're actually doing more of a fitness or progressive program to make your muscles way stronger than they were before.
I think it's important that you mentioned the strengthening of the muscles, because I think a lot of people will think, well, if my pelvic floor is too tight, then why do I need to strengthen anything? If it's tight, it's over strong. And it's one of those common misconceptions that I find out there. And another misconception that I wanted to mention too is that I've got a lot of guys in my practice who have pelvic floor pain and they're weightlifters. And they think, well, all my muscles, my glutes are strong. I can deadlift and squat over 300 pounds. Why do I have this issue? And I think it's something that I would love for you to talk about a little bit in terms of the imbalances of the muscles of the pelvic floor, but also the stabilizers of the pelvis.
Yeah, absolutely. So for some reason, they are having a situation where their pelvic floor muscles and the perineal area, for example, are overly tight, most likely, or overly contracted. And then, like you said, if a muscle is contracted all the time, it has no, reflex or give. So it's actually very weakened. So yeah, they might be able to do these heavy lifts, but personally, I would highly recommend that they address their pelvic floor dysfunction and take it a little bit easier. And what I started to, when I went back to lifting some, what I would do, I only used machines. That way I could isolate muscles without putting and bearing way too much weight down onto my pelvic floor. Like a squat or a deadlift, that's very, very bad on pelvic floor if it's dysfunctional. But you could do a seated leg extension and those other things that can still work your quads and your hamstrings and all of that. But the reason why their muscle is dysfunctional, it's, again, hard for us to know why exactly that has happened. But by all means, those muscles can actually be overly tight due to postural reasons, pelvic tilt, misalignment. I also highly recommend going to a chiropractor. A lot of people don't realize the importance of making sure your nervous system is in alignment and functioning appropriately, making sure your spine, your neck, your pelvis, everything is really straight is going to be super helpful. Because again, they might be deadlifting 300-400 pounds, but if you took an x-ray of them right now, you'd be like, well, how are you even still alive?
Yeah, it's true. Because sometimes the pelvic tilts can be pretty strong in folks like that. They might even have a functional scoliosis. Folks, that means the curvature of the spine is curved because of different muscle tightnesses and weaknesses. Or they might have a true scoliosis that's even messing with things. And then you add in with all of us kind of slumped over on our tech equipment. We've got our whole thoracic cavity rolled forward, our shoulders rolled forward, our neck going forward. It's a wonder that we can even walk some days when I see these x-rays. I'm impressed.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I switched to a standing desk back in like 2014, I think. And that was one of the best things that I've ever done. Standing desk is amazing. I actually have my monitor directly at eye level so that there's no hunching over. That's super important. I really like standing desks as well, because whenever you are getting tired, like mentally, rather than, because if you're seated, you'll just like get on social media and basically waste time because it's so comfortable and you're just like, you're not doing anything. But when you're standing and you're like not working, you can stop and you step away and you go for a walk or you do something different. It's really amazing. I just, a little promotion in there for standing desks.
It's almost, I mean, it's true. It's almost, I'm standing right now. I prefer to stand. If you see me in my office here, in town, I like hardly ever sit unless I'm actually sitting down to talk to somebody. And I don't like to sit very long because, well, a couple of reasons. I like to keep moving, but also because I'm a little hyper, but that's a good thing. But the other thing that I love, and this is what Dr. Bree and I kind of bonded over years ago, is that her hip circles, I'll stand and do hip circles like all day long, where seated, it's kind of hard to, you just, like you said, you get lazy sitting. You just cozy and you just kind of slump and let, yourself melt into the chair. Whereas standing, you're already kind of in motion. It's easier. You don't have to get up from the seated position. And the way I kind of see it is, it probably, in terms of overall, it's less pressure on the pelvic floor because you tend to be in a better posture when you're standing, I would think.
Oh yeah, it definitely is. And when I was seated back when I had pelvic floor pain, I had to use this donut cushion everywhere. It was so embarrassing too, seriously. I had to bring it everywhere. Like when I was driving, I brought it on flights because the pain was so severe if I sat directly onto a chair. And whenever it was like at the height of the pain, like I had to have the donut cushion. And but yeah, standing is really good. And I was just doing some hip circles as you were talking to see if I could, as I was at a standing desk. I've never done that before, but that's not a bad idea there. So
yeah, how'd it go?
Yeah.
You're able.
My hips are not that great. I'm still getting better at dancing in general. So I did do her hip circle and like belly dancing sort of movements. One of her classes. Yeah, like a few weeks ago, and that was pretty good though because I'm getting better at that. And I went to a hip hop dance class last week because I've had a fear of dancing like for quite some time, and I don't want to be afraid of anything anymore.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I'm usually joke that if there is a dance class, I'm in the back hiding. And I did get kicked out of a Zumba class once because I was supposed to be teaching it for a group that I was leading. And I was the worst person because the gal who was supposed to do it bailed that day. And yeah, my gals that had a little bit better grooves took over for me. So that tells you how bad I am. There you have it. Oh man, but hip hop, that's cool. That's cool to be able to do that. That's a lot of motion and a lot of demand on your body. So man, and now you were also saying martial arts has been part of your history for a long time. Tell us a little bit more about your martial arts history, because for me, I'm thinking that you need a lot of coordination, a lot of balance, and different, aspects of martial arts would make me think that you've got to do a lot of maintenance for your pelvic floor to keep that going too.
Yeah. I mean, I started martial arts when I was about 7 years old. And, I started with something that was like a mixture of Taekwondo, karate. And whenever I was 14, my dad opened up a martial arts school, actually, like in a small town. And I was about to get my black belt. So I was there teaching a lot, helping out. Once I turned 18, it was a pretty small school, but I was already pretty much running the whole school by that time. But I could legally sign the lease, so I took over the school and grew a pretty successful martial arts school, and also ended up creating some at-home training programs for people in different weapons like bow and nunchucks and also karate and this and that, and filmed a lot of DVDs and this and that. And it's actually turned into an online martial arts university now, which we're one of the leading online martial arts schools. But yeah, regarding your physical body, martial arts is super good for balance, coordination. I mean, bringing up your leg, your hip flexors are super loose because you can do kicks to the head, round kicks, side kicks, all these different movements. So yeah, I've been very agile and fast and flexible and very movement oriented my whole life. Going through this was really, really hard because I love working out. I love moving. I'm not someone who just likes to sit down and do nothing. But yeah, I never, thought I need to maintain my pelvic floor or this or that. It's like, no one thinks about like what their pelvic floor even is, really, until something happens to it, especially in men, I'm pretty sure. It's not something they're like taught in school, like, oh, make sure you take care of your pelvic floor. You don't want to overly think about it, but if you realize that posture or being overly stressed or trying to control this and that, and you can have a lot of different types of health elements manifest in your body, but this is just one particular type, you could say.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's one that I think is overlooked quite often. And I mean, it took you a long time to find some folks that could help you. And I am 100% sure that there are folks out there right now listening to this going like, gosh, yeah, that does kind of sound like what I've got going on. And I, think that this is a great starting place for folks to gather more information on the Overcome program. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how folks can find the program and interact with you and determine if the program is the right fit for them?
Absolutely. Yeah. overcomepelvicpain.com is our website. And you can actually do a free 7-day healing program. You get access to the first week. There's a lot of information in the first week, by the way. So highly recommend it. If you're thinking this is something that is relevant to you or you might need it, just check out our website. You can watch my story. You can learn more about how the program works. And again, the first 7 days, completely free. You're not going to see dramatic changes in your first week, but you should feel some comfort, some ease after some of those stretching routines a little bit later in the week. And then you would just have 11 more weeks to go. So that's the way that works. And if you're a woman and you're listening, the program is still fairly relevant for women, but we are making Overcome Pelvic Pain for women. It's going to come out this fall, and it's going to be specific to women's needs. So that will be there. And so that's the Overcome program, and that's how you can join it and get started on overcoming this once and for all.
It's awesome. I think this is a big deal and I love it. And for those of you who are listening to this podcast and see me in my office here in Tacoma, Washington, you will be seeing more of it within my practice, because those of you folks who are suffering from this kind of pain are going to be jumping into the program as well, because I have decided to incorporate it into my practice as well, because I think that what you guys have going on is just a great resource and a game changer for so many folks who have been down all the wrong pathways for too many years.
Yeah, thank you so much for supporting us. And I think it's awesome that you have such a wide open understanding, like you mentioned earlier, I think even before we started recording, as a guide or a coach to people's health, so that you can teach them how to heal themselves rather than them looking for a particular silver bullet. And I also have this on our website, but I spent over $18,000 over the 5 years. Almost, I don't think any of it, a couple of things were covered by insurance. I was also paying for health insurance the whole time, but I had to pay for a lot of these tests out of pocket, and a year of physical therapy, a year with this other healer and acupuncture and all these other things and herbs. And well, it's all listed out there, but our program is very affordable too. And it's something that can help you realize that you can overcome something like this and you can take health into your own hands.
I think that's an important point. I do remember at the beginning, before we recorded, you talking about that. I think 18,000 is not uncommon for a lot of folks to have spent that much money trying to solve what is going wrong with them, and having such a program like this where everything's included. You don't need to go to a nutritionist. You don't need to go to 8, different practitioners. Everything is all in one place. I think that's huge. I think that's absolutely huge. And then of course, having someone to just guide you through it who's been through it. And that's where you come in, Michael. That's an important aspect of it, because I think you do well by folks when you have experienced what you've experienced and you're teaching how to get over it and giving the tools to other folks to educate them on what they need to do and what really works, versus folks who are just kind of theoretically spewing information. It's best to learn from a mentor who's been there. That's name of the game here, and taking the time to actually put in the work. As unfortunately, as much as I wish there was a magic pill, there absolutely isn't, and especially in this kind of situation.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Like the workshop you've been living is the one you're meant to be given. So it's actually a good way to realize what your life's purpose can be, or why you went through a really difficult crucible in your life. Also, another thing, we have an online community. So when you're going through it, you'll see posts from other people giving updates on how they're doing. I actually just made a post yesterday asking anyone to share any positive experiences they've had recently. Some people posted. So you're going to see other people around you that are experiencing this, and they'll mention their symptoms, and you're like, wow, these other guys are feeling the same way. And you'll see some people break through. And when you see someone break through and get positive results, and you know what's possible, and it gives you that license to do it yourself.
Oh my goodness, that's awesome. So is this community is a private group based on folks who are in the Overcome program, or is this open up to everyone?
So you have to be in the Overcome program, but once you join it on our website, next to the online course, there's a link to the online community. Yeah, just for guys who are actually doing it and decided to go all in and overcome this.
Awesome. And you can stay in the program as long as you like. In the Facebook group as long as you like.
Yeah, you're still in the online community. I'm pretty sure you would still have access it. You get lifetime access to the program, but we didn't put on there like 12-week program, and then you get 3 years of access to the community. We're like, we want you guys out of the community. You don't need to be thinking about pelvic floor dysfunction anymore.
Right.
Go have fun with your life.
Yes. No, that's awesome. I think that's an important takeaway. I just think that sometimes folks might be a little intimidated if you go through the 12 weeks and then, it's like, all right, bye. But you already said that sometimes it takes folks a little longer than the actual 12 weeks. It's just the 12 weeks of content that you have. But
that's true. Yeah, you get access to it for life, really, meaning that, if you need to take a little longer or something, it's there for you.
And in terms of folks who might need a little bit added support, is there any one-on-one or Q&A with either you or Dr. Bree within the program?
So within the program, that's not an included feature right now. We have people that they'll send a message before they join or even after they've joined here and there, and I've been replying. The online community is the best way to do those sort of things, but we might consider offering some sort of coaching later on. But currently, that's not something, at least at time of recording this, that we offer with it.
Okay. Sounds good. No, I like to ask all the questions because I know I'm going to get the questions myself personally from my patients. So I figure if I get it all out here, then I know exactly what to say.
Absolutely.
Going forward. All right. So Michael, if anyone is struggling right now, right in the moment, they're listening to this and they're hurting right now, if there is one thing that they could do right in this moment, moving forward to get them on the path to success, what would you tell them?
I would tell them to put on some nice meditative music, put on some headphones and take a walk, or you could sit down if you'd like, but probably take a walk or lie down, one of the two. If you're in a ton of pain, you might want to lie down. And I want you to imagine yourself in the future, envision how amazing it's going to feel whenever you're able to do all those things that you used to do, or even new things that you've never done before. And I want you to really feel into the emotions of this, how incredible it's going to be. That's going to then overcome the past emotions. It's so hard to do this because when you're in pain, you physically feel it and you just want to think about the pain. That's what chronic pain is. The same neural networks they continue to be traveled down over and over and over again. You have to choose something greater than that. So it's go for a walk. And even if you're in pain, feel this future and feel it fully emotionally, or lie down and do this. And if it sounds crazy and you don't want to try it, then maybe you just don't want to heal then. I'm willing to do what it takes. I'm willing to go down new paths that I've never explored before if it means overcoming something like this. And that's something that will absolutely benefit you.
Awesome. Well said. Well said. Michael, thank you so much for coming on and talking about the Overcome Pelvic Pain program. And folks, don't forget, you can go over to overcomepelvicpain.com and there is the free 7-day course so you can dip your toes in and see what you think about the program. But thank you so much, Michael. This has been enlightening for me to understand what the program's about, but also I hope for a lot of folks to know that there is help out there. There are folks that have been through the same or similar symptoms to them, and there are answers. So I'm excited to put this out and get folks on their way to recovery.
Absolutely, Janine. Thank you for having me on the show. And, anytime you want to talk pelvises, we can.
Oh, I'm game. I'm game.
Hey, health junkies, Dr. Janine Krause here. I hope you enjoyed my podcast. Guess what? I have a Facebook group. It's called Anti-Aging Health Tips with Dr. Janine Krause. So if you want a little bit more of the Health Fix podcast, head over to my Facebook group and let's chat. Now, I'm also offering a health transformation and restoration program. It's a one-on-one with me. And it's for folks who are sick and tired of going to doc after doc and health coach after health coach and not seeing the results that they want and deserve. In my program, I'm working with folks with transformation. So this isn't just a light program. This is a big deal. I'm going to change how you think about your health and your life kind of program. And I'm super excited to offer it to folks. And if you are at all interested, we should talk. I'm offering 45 minutes free with me chatting to see if and how I can help you. And you can get all the details over at my website, drjkraussnd.com. All right. You've survived another episode of The Health Fix. I'm your host, Dr. Janine Krause. Have a great day, whatever you're doing.
Subscribe, rate, and share info.